Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another PlateUp food automation tutorial. This would be part 2 of my pie series. In the first episode, you saw, if you didn't see it, go back and watch it, mind you. I automated meat pie and mushroom pie separately and with a dual setup. It is pretty straightforward because they only have one extra ingredient. You only need one combiner for each, but when you're using veggie pies, you have to have two. And obviously you're pulling your flour, you have your mixer. This is just a rapid mixer. Again, if you don't have a rapid mixer, you could use a conveyor mixer that you could actually be set up right here. That would work as well, pushing onto the hob, because this would combine with your dough. But for now, we're going to use a rapid mixer just because it's a little bit faster. Now I'm going to go into practice mode. I'm going to show you exactly how this works, and I'm going to explain how it works. Alrighty. So basically, your dough is coming across, your flour is turning into a dough ball, turning into a crust, passes through, gets put, the carrot gets put on it, and then the broccoli gets put on it, and now it's being cooked. And this is very, very straightforward because combiners, the way combiners work, they're a bit weird. So if you have a combiner pushing onto a conveyor that's next to another appliance that can accept something, it will put something on that before you actually see it on here. Because of the way that grabbers work, as soon as the grabber action picks this up, which is not immediate, just watch here. The carrot's actually on the crust before it gets pulled in. It's not a glitch, it's not a bug, it's just how this mechanic works. As soon as this has an opening, this will pull it, and then the combiner will automatically push onto it, regardless if there's a time in between. You can see exactly how it is like this. And you say to yourself, you know what, this is great and all, but what happens if we have meat pies too? Because the thing is you always start with meat pies, right? You always start with meat pies. Well, it's a very, very simple thing of how to get this. Actually, we have to go from here, and we're going to pull this one this way. We have another hob set up like this. We have another grabber set up like this. We have our prep station. And here's going to be our meat fridge. And of course, you guessed it, we have a combiner. And we have our meat fridge. There you go. Let's run this to show you exactly how this is working. It's basically the same thing, except the rapid mixer is now doing the job of two things. And you say to yourself, well, is that really good or not? And the answer is it doesn't matter, as it does work. The mechanics of how the grabbers pull from each other is still a bit of a mystery. I don't know if it's because of the way that it's facing it pulls first. I don't know. But eventually it will back up. And it may not back up right away, but it will back up eventually. I think it'll back up here, and I'll show you exactly how that works. Come on, he's going to pull it. There we go. So, and there you're making your veg pies. And you can say to yourself, well, this seems a bit not right. Is there a better way to do this? And the answer is, of course, there's always a better way to do it. And I'm going to show you exactly how I would do it when it comes to that. Because it could be a bit slow, because your meat pies or whatever is, depending on how your grabbers are configured and depending on how they pull things out of here, one side is going to get saturated before the other, and people may be wanting meat pies and you only have veg pies, and you're going to be like waiting for the automation to back up. And you don't want to wait forever for things like that. So the way you would do it is you basically put a grabber here. So instead of it going into the mixer, you're doing it something like this. And here I would use a conveyor mixer. Now you don't have to, but to fit this more compact design, you do need a conveyor mixer, just because of the nature of how these things are laid out. But now let's see what happens, because the mixer is only pulling from one spot now. It's not pulling from two different spots. So let's just watch and see what happens here. Now, the flour comes down, of course, the meat gets ready. This will pass down here. Again, things path the way they path, but your flour will always back up first because it's just flour. There's no action in between that. And as you see there, it's already backing up, and it'll continue to back up after the first one. So now you see there, we have a meat pie coming in, and then we're going to have a veg pie coming in, then we're going to have a meat pie coming in, and then we're going to have a veg pie coming in. And eventually they will somewhat equalize themselves once the prep stations are full. But you see what's happening. Meat pie, a couple of seconds later we have another veg, another meat, etc., etc., etc. Now, you may say to yourself, well, what if I want to add, what if I have mushroom pie too? I have mushrooms here. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, it takes a bit more configuring. I don't know if I can do it in this space. I may have to reset this and come back to it. But it can be done. That is the thing. It can be done. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pause the video here. And in the next segment, I'm going to come back and have mushrooms in here as well. Just because it'll be a bit more compact. It's just I don't have the materials needed to do mushrooms added to this. But it is 100% possible. So I want to show you guys exactly how I would do that. Alrighty. After a little bit more setup, let's get this smart grabber out of the way because this is not needed for what we're doing here. We are complete. We have this is a bit of extreme automation, but the point of it is to show that this is 100% possible. Now, as I said before, is if these are frozen prep stations, it'd be much better off because things would back up a lot faster. I'm going to run the simulation now, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll just talk as these things do their thing, and I'll run back in to fix the screen. Oh, I can't do that. I got to stay out here. Okay, that's fine. I'll stay out here. You guys can see that. So basically, it's working the same way as the previous two clips were. Is you're having actually a two different setup here. And you may say, well, could you make this even better? And the answer is yes, if you have another mixer. But say you don't have another mixer, then you're kind of locked in with this. But I'm going to show you very, very quickly. Oh, let's exit this. If you have another mixer, this is even more doable. And I have a conveyor mixer here because, like I said, the rapid mixers are not that much faster than the regular mixers or than the conveyor mixers. So you're like, okay, well, this is all fine and dandy, but it looks like the flour is taking too long. How can we fix that? And I think I'm going to get stuck in here. And the answer is you will not get stuck. You will have a problem because of the nature of how things work. So you put this up here, this would go away. This would then go, actually you wouldn't, oops, that's not what I want. Let's kind of glitch back in, please. Maybe I can't glitch back in. I think I'm going to be stuck in here now. Let's, we try to do things too quickly. All right, so you're going to have a conveyor mixer here, and again, it doesn't matter. Actually, you know what? It wouldn't matter if these are conveyor mixers or regular mixers. Again, like I said before, it doesn't really matter. So we're just going to ignore that I'm getting stuck here, to be honest with you. That'll end up going here. This will go like that. This one's going to have to go like that. And then I'm actually going to grab this mixer, which could go right here. So let's pop this out. That would go like that, because that would feed that mixer. This would feed this mixer. And then we also have another mixer, which would be right here. So let's swap out this grabber here. Again, I'm trying to do this in a very tight spot just to show you guys the different options that you have here. And you say, well, is this going to be any better? Well, let's find out. Because the way that grabbers work, the grabber up there in the top right next to the flour is irrelevant at this point. Again, depending on what type of mixers you have, some of them are irrelevant how they're set up. Again, you can modify this as you see fit depending on what type of mixers you have. But let's go into practice mode. I think everything is set up the way I'd want it to be set up. And let's just see how the automation works. Because it can be a bit wonky. So let's see, the flour is coming in automatically going from there. But look at that. Now this is passing down to the second one, passing across the way that the grabbers work. But this will back up very, very quickly. Right away, right there is backing up. So looks like we're actually having just about all the pies being made somewhat at the same time. So if you have an extra mixer around, or conveyor mixer, or rapid mixer, whatever mixer you have, this is definitely an option. Because as you can see, the pies are all coming out relatively, the veg pies will always come out faster just because they're getting the flour first. But once things start backing up, look at that. They're almost actually even. Veg pies are backed up. You have your last mushroom pie. You have your last meat pie. And there you go. So by adding, I'm just going to get out of this to stop the playing. So basically by adding one more one more mixer here, you're making your speed go up that much quicker. So the point of me showing you these different methods is that you can start off very basic and you could advance as much as you want. You could have tons of grabbers. Some of these could be actually conveyor belts, like this middle one here in front of me could be, like this one here could be a conveyor belt. because it's not pushing anything. Some of these these could all be conveyor belts, except the bottom one. That would have to be a grabber, but you could have 2 conveyor belts there. It depends on what you have. But again, if you get to this stage of automation, you basically have blueprint cabinets and copy desks and potentially discount desks. So having to buy a conveyor belt for 20 versus a grabber for 60, you probably aren't hurting for money. But there you go. That's basically how I would lay this out. And this, for argument's sake, let's just get rid of this grabber. Put him up here, hide him out of the way, just to make this look a bit cleaner. And there you go. So, just to recap, I showed you how to set up veg pies, and I had a bonus of adding meat pies and adding mushroom pies. So thank you guys very much for joining me. This is a bit more advanced automation because of what you need. Like I said, it can be very modular. You don't actually need to have prep stations. You don't need to have grabbers pulling off the hob. You could serve right from the hob. Do I recommend that? Of course not, because you're only serving one at a time, and save a table of 2 that wants veg pie, so you have to wait for both of them to cook. But like I said, this is more of a late game into overtime type setup, but it's 100% doable in vanilla. I'm doing this in a bit of a separate version of the game where I can show you guys tutorials without having to play tons of days. But the concept is the same. This is very much doable in vanilla. I've done it myself, not a triple setup like this, but maybe a meat and mushroom or the veg one. And it is possible in the regular game. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. This has been a lot of fun to make. It's very complex. Here you're going to need 3 safety hobs. You're going to need 4 combiners. You're going to need 3 mixers of various types. I was just not using a heated mixer for any of them, just because of a heated mixer will cook will par break a pie crust, and it will burn it. That is also a problem, and it will happen. It cooks very slowly, but when things start backing up, depending if you're not having a lot of meat pies, a lot of veg pies, it will burn. And if something burns in this setup where you say you can't reach anything but this one, you're going to have a bad time. But anyway, you could take this and modify this as you see fit by changing out the different type of mixers, adding conveyor belts instead of grabbers, etc., etc., etc. If you'd have another bag of flour, which do drop, you could put that at the bottom down here, and you could eliminate a lot of these grabbers. You could just have one sitting here, one over there, whatever. So again, there's quite, you can open to interpretation, but I wanted to show you the bare bones basics of how I would set this up, and even where the flour is. As I'm looking at it now, the flour could be down 1 because it would grab from that as well. But nonetheless, thank you guys for watching. If you're enjoying these tutorials, please leave a comment below about what's been your favorite so far. If there's any sort of automation that you want me to do for you guys, or a guide on automating something, maybe from a modular design or a bare bones design up to a modular design, etc., please leave it in the comments. I've been loving doing these for you guys. You guys seem to be having a great response for it. And I can't wait to get back to the next one. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'll catch you next time in the next PlateUp automation, intermediate, beginner, advanced, we don't know, tutorial. Thanks guys, take care now.